Hi, I'm Georgia Leybourne from Linnworks. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today. I'm here to talk to you about operational excellence, and I want to focus on three areas in particular. We've got the expand element of operational excellence, we've got the automate element, and then we've got the control element. And I want to focus very much on how we can help you fix any of your operational woes once that customer clicks on the buy button. So before we start, what I'd really love to do is a quick audience poll to understand who we've got here today in the audience. So hands up if you are from a retailer who is operating within the retail market here in Europe. Great, really, really good to see some retailers in the audience, thank you. And what about your role? What particular role are you in? Are you in supply chain? The retail operations side of things? Great. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. It really helps for me to know who it is who's in the audience today. And finally, a quick one. Who's from here in EMEA? Those in NORAM? Great. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Just helps me make sure that I can target this presentation to you who's sat here in the audience. So, in a few moments' time, we're going to define what operational excellence is. I actually Googled that before I got up on stage today, and I was kind of blown away by this really scientific textbook definition of what operational excellence is. So before I try and define it, I'm actually going to show you what it's not. So I'm going to run this quick video for you. Now, clearly, challenges can happen at any stage of your supply chain operations, but this is clearly one that we don't want to happen moving forward. So we will work very hard with you to ensure that we can help you with your operational excellence and make sure that you don't have catastrophes of that nature. So just before I define it, I want to reach out to you and share the fact that I am well aware that you guys are having to cater for your consumers, you're having to cater for your own business, and you're also having to cater for the needs of your partners. And operational excellence touches all aspects of that relationship and that ecosystem in which you're operating. And it's really important we consider all aspects of it. So I actually went out to our customers to ask them what operational excellence meant to them. The first customer I asked, I loved his answer. He talked about making the easy things quicker and the hard things easier. What a great definition for all of us to aspire to as we try and improve our operations. The second customer I spoke to talked about the left hand and the right hand, knowing what the front end and the back end of the business were doing, because if there's a disconnect there, we're all in trouble. And then the third customer talked about 3 levers. They believe that operational excellence is about getting cost control right, making your customer happy, and tipping the balance with the environment and making sure you're doing the right thing from a sustainability perspective. It used to be that we only had 2 levers, but now we clearly have 3. So let's aspire to be these things as we improve the operations of our business moving forward. So I wanted to approach this from 3 concepts, and the first one is expansion. We are all in growth mode. That's a primary business strategy that any organization is after. And if you're successful, your operation needs to keep up. So let's look at this, because where I'm coming from is the proliferation of digital, the proliferation of online, and the shift that retail has gone through in the last 10 years to a digital focus. Now, before COVID, the majority of the world was operating at around about 10% of retail sales were from online. And then during COVID, we saw a huge uplift. And now we're around about 15% on average. Some countries are lower, some countries are higher. China's up here, but fundamentally on average it's about 15%. And if you listen to the pundits and you read the reports from Statista, they'll tell you that by 2027 that's likely to increase to 25%. So online, digital is on the rise. But what do we mean by that? This is where I surprised myself earlier this year. We ran a research project we interviewed 2,000 consumers within the UK market, and we asked them where they liked to shop. We gave them 4 options: marketplace, the brand website, in the store, or from a catalogue over the phone. 51% said a marketplace. I literally fell off my chair because I couldn't believe it was that high. And only 19% prefer your online website directly. Now this, for me, is very interesting in the operational world, because when you work with marketplaces, you are definitely going to expand your business. You are definitely going to get access to a much, much broader set of customers. But your operations do become more complex, because suddenly you've got to sync across channels. You've got to make absolutely sure that you don't offer something on one marketplace that you've sold out of on another marketplace. And you need to make sure that you can fulfill to the demands of the marketplace. So suddenly we've added exponential complexity to our operation and the back-end logistics. If you start to sell on these marketplaces that you can see behind me, you can see that they're multinational. Some of them are domestic, some of them are overseas. Some of them are what I would call a generic marketplace, an Amazon or an eBay. Others are slightly more exacting in the form of a brand marketplace. Others are some kind of an aggregator who are buying up brands and doing it themselves. They're all different. They all have different needs. They all have different demands. They all have different expectations. And you guys have to figure out how to fulfill even when you're selling on those different marketplaces. So that's where we come to a few examples, which I'll just share with you, which I found fascinating when talking to our customers. So think about unexpected peak sales. And when we talk about peak, sometimes we know it's coming, Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Sometimes it comes in an unexpected form. So here are 2 stories for you. The first one is the phenomenal marketing department who ran the best promotion on the face of the earth. And their sales went like that. But they didn't talk to the warehouse. They didn't talk to the logistics side. They didn't know that the warehouse had decreased their capacity, decreased their inventory down because they were changing out their racking system. The business couldn't fulfill that promotion that the marketing department had worked so hard on because the left hand and the right hand weren't talking to each other. They were on 2 different systems. They were looking at 2 different sets of data. That's a disaster for your business. That's not the way we need to go. The second example I have is TikTok. Now, some people have had great success on TikTok. Other people are still trying to figure out how it works. But if you get on TikTok and you get one of those influential moments, again, your sales can go like this. Now, this particular customer I spoke to is a customer of Linnworks, and they had an influencer using their product on TikTok, and they sold a year's worth of stock in 1 week. And they were able to keep up because of the connectivity they had achieved. So they didn't lose out in any way, shape or form. The second area where marketplace selling can be quite challenging is on SLAs. And they're all different. They all expect different things. But think about it this way. If you're selling your products on a B&Q or a John Lewis, you're kind of embracing their brand. So their brand reputation is going to be at stake. And they're going to have an expectation that you do business in a really, really optimized fashion. They're going to want to make sure that you're using a standardized integration, uploading to them in an automated way, not a manual way. And they're going to want to make absolutely certain that you don't let your consumer down, because that will not only impact you, it will impact them. So again, marketplaces can put some pretty exacting demands on you, and you need to fulfill them. And then finally, what I call multi-channel sync. I mentioned this already. You've got to have a single view of stock across all those channels. You can't afford to oversell. You can't afford to understock. You need to make absolutely certain that you've got just the right level and that you know where it is and who it can service. And you need access to those real-time updates. So again, a customer story is the customer who had that stock sink in place and was able to duck and dive and be agile regardless of where the sales were coming from. And that's a really, really important part of getting prepared. So we move now to automation. In supply chain and logistics, automation is all about gaining efficiencies, finding ways to save money. But it's also a way to delight your customer and help to grow your revenue. So it kind of has a double whammy effect when you get it right. Now, I often say, I was actually in Barcelona earlier this week at Shop Talk. None of the audience was supply chain related. They were all e-commerce front end. They just cared about more traffic, getting footfall into the store, getting the sales done, conversions, advertising, all that kind of thing. They were doing a great job. But what happens when the buy button is pushed? It's now time to fulfill those orders. Is your business ready to do that? Because that's where literally the rubber hits the road. And this is where we can make or break our relationship with the consumer. So it's imperative when your marketing side of your business is doing a great job and getting those sales in, you've got to make absolutely certain you are in a position to do that fulfillment the way the customer wants. So when you're transacting online, we can all, as human beings, take one order and envisage it from start to finish. We can take it all the way through our business, through every single scenario. We can make it happen. We know the customer's happy. It's fantastic. Now imagine 10 orders, 100 orders, 1,000 orders within a day, within an hour, within a couple of hours. Suddenly, humans can't do that. Spreadsheets won't work. Your generalized ERP can't cope with the specificity of retail order management. And that's where a rules engine comes in. That's where high big data comes in to start to help you make decisions on the fly, help you find the inventory, route the inventory, and get it to the right place at the right time for the right cost. So technology, when it comes to scale, is absolutely imperative when you are trying to get on top of the operations of your retail business. In addition, let's talk about shipping. We are, after all, at the Deliver conference. It doesn't matter what you're selling. If it involves a physical good, at some stage, somewhere in your supply chain, you are going to have to ship from A to B. Now, there are a lot of players out there who specialize in different things, different locations, different sizes, different types of SKUs. With a platform like Linnworks or any of the other commerce ops platforms out there, part of the solution is integrating with all of the different shipping options that are available to you in one place. So you don't have to worry about multiple, you just have to worry about one. But being connected like this is massive, especially if you're going cross-border, because cross-border is a less known entity to you than the domestic market, and connections to those shipping partners can really help. So again, if we look at a couple of case studies around automation, I want to touch on resource and capacity. So many people in this world believe that this is all about getting rid of humans. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about complementing what humans in your organization do and redeploying workforce to specialize on your area of specialty, which is being a retailer or a logistics partner, and letting the technology do all of the boring tasks that sometimes people get tied up in. So using a system of this nature, one of our customers, we've actually had a couple of scenarios here. Some of them do manage to reduce headcount, but others are redeploying their workforce into something more strategic for their business and letting the technology take care of some of that drudge work, if you like. The other thing that automation can do is it can bring you growth capacity. We had a customer who signed up very quickly with us, and over the course of the first 2 years, they actually multiplied their business size by 6. And when they compared that growth to their competition, they did that with a quarter of the staff. So you can see how technology can really start to bring economies of scale and give you that opportunity to scale up pretty rapidly. The next area is decision making. Again, if you go back to that concept of one order, we can all make a decision if we've got one thing to think about in isolation. But if you've got multiple things to think about, having that rules engine help you make decisions, expose the situation, and then be able to take action really quickly, that can help make or break the customer journey. So it's really important to consider automation as something that's helping you to avoid the issues by being very, very agile. And then here under automation, I've put happy customers. At the end of the day, this is what it's all about, customer centricity, making sure we cater to the customer need without breaking the bank. One of the things one of our customers was trying to do was that infamous same-day delivery. We actually helped them realize that customers aren't actually focused on same day. They're focused on reliability. They don't mind receiving it tomorrow or next week. They just want certainty that it's going to arrive. And that's where it's imperative that through automation, you can make a commitment to your customer and stick to it. And even if you can't stick to it, you get out ahead of early enough against any problems that you communicate with them. And that will lead you to happy customers. And this kind of technology enables you to be that connected to what's going on that you can get out ahead of any of those problems. That leads us finally to control. Now this is where we actually start to consider the physical goods. Let's take a step back. We're selling stuff here. When a consumer comes to your organization to buy something, they're looking to get their hands on physical goods. So suddenly we're right in the meat of the problem. This is where your inventory is. This is how your inventory is being handled. And that's what your customers want. So it's imperative we take the warehouse operations very, very seriously, because that's where the gold is, where the customer is concerned. So it's really, really important to have a well-ordered warehouse that can cater to the needs of the front end of your business at the drop of a hat. A lot of warehouses are geared up for pallet management and providing large-scale orders, a large number of the same SKU to the same organization. When e-commerce started to take flight, a lot of warehouse operations struggled to convert to what we call pick and pack, to that single item or that single order coming through the system for one or two SKUs. With a product like this, it's geared specifically towards e-commerce flows within the warehouse. So it's really helping cater for that speed and agility of the pick and pack model that so many warehouses struggled to adopt when they converted from store replenishment to the e-commerce phenomenon. And it doesn't matter whether you've got your own warehouse or whether you're outsourcing your warehouse to a third party. That is a decision that is going to ebb and flow in your business every day of the week, every month, every year. And there's no right way. That's down to you. But with technology of this nature, it actually doesn't matter. The important thing is that you have control. You have to know where your goods are, whether it's in your own warehouse or whether it's in a third party's warehouse. So a couple of scenarios here. I mentioned about single picks and this technology being aimed specifically at the single pick. Another area that's really important in the warehouse, think about seasonal staff. When peak does hit you, you probably bring in a few interims to help you. If you've got technology deployed, it needs to be really intuitive. I've had customers before who have been knocked over because the software they were using was not intuitive. So it's really, really important to make sure that your processes and procedures are really, really tight so that you can bring someone in, get them up and running within 20 minutes. The other thing is compliance. I mentioned earlier those shipping integrations. This is a fascinating area. So couriers are very prolific, particularly in the European market. They're a little bit less fragmented stateside, but here we've got thousands of couriers. You have to make sure you pick the right courier for the right job, because if you get it wrong and you allocate incorrectly, that courier will fine you because you got the dimensions wrong or the weight wrong or the size wrong or something. We've got a specific customer who was paying almost $5,000 a month in courier fines prior to deploying our technology. And then when they'd got that operational control, they managed to reduce that almost to zero. So that's a really, really important consideration when you are trying to connect to shipping companies. You've got to make sure that you're getting that allocation right. And then finally, inventory. I mentioned physical goods. That's what the customer wants. You need to have a single view of inventory for your business, the same in the warehouse as it is at an enterprise level, so that you are talking from the same set of data. It's no good having different systems doing two things unless they're connected in some way. You've got to have that left-hand, right-hand competence. So I think it's only fair that I just share with you who Linnworks is. Well, it's only fair for me. I hope you'll just give me just a moment. So we are a connected commerce ops platform that specializes in operational excellence. We're looking to help retailers connect all of their channels so that you can achieve that single view of inventory from start to finish. That's end-to-end inventory management, online, in the store, in the warehouse. We've been around for a while. You might not have heard of us. We're a relatively small company, but we've been around for 14 years. We've got 4,000 customers, and you can see here some of our credentials. I'm going to take a short moment to run a short video, and then I'm going to invite John to come back up on stage and help me drag some questions out of you guys. So please do think about any questions you have, and we'll resume straight after the video. Welcome back, John.
Thank you. Right. Good. Right, Greens, are you ready? I hope you were listening, because I'm going to ask you loads of questions. Right, that was really interesting, and I get I get the sense you kind of don't want to be coming across as selling, which is why it was very, very conceptual and very clear, right? But if you'd let me dig a little deeper on some specifics, because I want to.
It's up to these guys. I don't want to upset them.
No, they're fine.
I tried not to be too much like a vendor, but at the end of the day, I am a vendor.
Yeah, exactly. But I get it's very conceptual. But I've got a few questions which I noted down when you were talking, if that's okay. So let's start from the headline. It's clearly all about connected commerce. That's what you guys position yourselves, and you're a SaaS.
Yes.
In the middle, and you can connect with perhaps existing providers, existing alliances or strategic partners that retailers may choose to have?
Yes.
Okay. Can you expand a little, perhaps give us an example of how your SaaS platform sits and has been able to connect, let's say, from the button, the
Yep.
buy button, to the warehouse pick-pack operation?
Yep.
Give me an example.
So I'll go with two examples. So the first thing to think about is the majority of people that we work with are customers who are already very active, but they want to expand, they want to grow, and they want to embrace new marketplaces. And there's an uncertainty about that new marketplace. So we provide them with the connectivity that enables them to very, very quickly start to expand their market to include those brand marketplaces, which means more customers, more brand awareness, more access to people who are buying. Now, when we do that, we are adding that channel to an existing pool of inventory that they've got within their enterprise. The inventory is likely to be in the warehouse, but they're orchestrating it at an enterprise level. So the buy button is pushed and there they are going, okay, I've got an order from Joe Bloggs in Swansea. Right, how am I going to fulfill that order? Which warehouse do I go to? Which supplier do I need to pull it from? Which store is the inventory in? And now, which courier am I going to use to get it from there to there? And all the while, that rules engine is saying, okay, you're now down to X number of stocks, so let's update all of these marketplaces so they all know how much stock you've got available for the next order that comes in. How are we going to get it to Johnny? Is that the right price level? We don't want to spend too much money so that it erodes your margins. It's doing all of that in the background. And as I said, one order you can kind of envisage from start to finish, but when it's tens or hundreds of thousands, you need that bit of software to be doing all of that.
And also, it's got to be connected because you don't want to sell the same pair of jeans 5 times over.
And that's the key.
That's the problem.
That is the key. And one of the points that we're always trying to get across is, if you are struggling with overselling in your business, it's because you haven't got a connected operations.
So I want to dig a little bit deeper here for a second. So let's imagine that one of the greatest assets retailers, bricks and mortar or omni-channel, should we say, retailers have got is their store network. But it's not so easy to harness the inventory that's in that store network in real time for online purchases because you need real-time visibility.
You do.
Right. Can you tell these guys that you can solve that problem?
Yes, we can, because we can also connect to the point of sale in the store.
Right.
Now, real-time inventory in the store, we know that's problematic because you get the customer who picks up the item from the place where it's meant to be and they take it over there and they think, oh no, I don't want that after all, and they put it on the wrong shelf. I can't fix that for you. If you want to fix that, you've got to go down the RFID route, barcode scanning, all that kind of thing to figure out where your stock is. But if you're mapping your inventory in the store, I can connect to that visibility and I can pull that to the enterprise level so that it can become part of your overall network. So that means if you want that little pair of black jeans and we can't find it within the warehouse environment, we might be able to find it at one of the store locations because we're connected into that inventory look. And then we can either do a pick in the store and send out, or a click and collect for the customer in the store. That can be part of the options on. And again, I don't want anyone to think I'm not your web commerce front end. I'm not your Shopify or your Magento or your, one of those players who's helping you build your online presence. I'm behind that. I am absolutely on the operational side, partnering with the Shopifys of the world to make sure that there's an absolute seamlessness, partnering hopefully with your point of sale vendor so that we can create that connectivity and surface it all in one place.
That's really interesting. I know for me that's the holy grail. If you can harness your high street stock in as close to real time as possible, I get your scenario that it's hanging there and we think it's still for sale or we think it's been sold. Yeah, I get that. But what you're saying is it can make it infinitely better and almost perfect.
And that's also where something called safety stock comes into play. You find with the omni-channel vendor, when you are bringing the store network into consideration, you often allow for what we call a safety stock level, which is both for items that get lost in the changing room.
Like a buffer.
But also like a buffer, but also for footfall in the store, because actually you don't want people coming into the store to buy that little pair of jeans and find that you've got it packed under the desk to go out to someone who's bought it online. So there's like this safety stock element, and you guys define that. That's not something that we would define. That's just one of the things that you can configure into the system.
Okay. So I'm just going to drill a little deeper again on this. So if you've got, so how would you work with a client? So let's say a retailer in the audience here is interested in what they've heard and they like this idea of harnessing real-time inventory at store level because they don't currently have that capability. what's the process? Do you go in and do an audit, or can they tell you which platforms I'm just curious, how long does it take you to diagnose that you can help or not?
Oh, it's really, really quick. It's all about finding out who they're working with, what their challenges are, how many SKUs, what kind of SKUs. We have an area of specialty.
Okay.
We have certain verticals that are more conducive to our solution than others. We have certain technology providers, but quite often a customer will come to us with a technology provider that we haven't already connected with, and we'll go out and embrace that relationship, because we want to grow that ecosystem as much as possible, because we know that by having a Linnworks there as the kind of center of your universe, if we can make it easier for you to connect to all those different players, we're providing a really, really valuable service. But most of that is done literally on the telephone. We do an assessment. So it is a little bit like an audit, but it's not like, okay, we're available in 2 months' time and we'll come in and see you. It's a pretty quick phone call discovery session, and we can work out the details. We normally talk about implementations being, 3 to 4 months, but it's as much down to you guys as it is down to us, because with any technology, and if a technologist tells you otherwise, they're lying, there's a certain amount of work that you guys need to do to put technology into your infrastructure. And that involves time on your side. So you need to make yourselves available just as much as we do, so that we can build that partnership and build that connectivity. But 3 months on average, but we've done our second largest customer in the UK, we did 2.5 weeks start to finish.
Wow, brilliant. Quick question, retailers in the audience, just to show hands, if you're currently in sort of an expansion space, you're scaling the business right now. So 2 at the front. Is that it? Nobody else is scaling? You're all sort of like...
We kind of discovered that the retailers were at the front of this crowd, and we haven't really figured out who the players are towards the rear. So they're in clandestine mode.
I can see the green torches, guys. I know who you are. Right, yeah, well done. Cover your ears up. Okay, so you two here at the front, right? Do you have real-time visibility of your inventory, as we just discussed, at store level? Right, okay. I've got a quick question for you, and then you can answer this question, because I think it'd be quite interesting for you to hear this. In terms of, let's imagine you were going to scale your business. The CEO says, right, we're going to open 20 stores. Is that your CEO? Brilliant. That you're going to open 20 stores in the next 6 months. How would that fill you with dread, or is that something you could confidently do?
It would fill me with dread.
Now let's see what the boss thinks.
But it's exactly what she tells me to do anyway.
Do you want to say who you are, by the way, so we know?
Wait. I can't hear myself.
I don't think that microphone is on, because I can't hear them.
Oh, can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you now.
Oh. Sorry, I'm not confident enough.
Oh, don't hold the bit at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I can hear you perfectly now.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
We're from a company called Leybourne. We're based in the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were to open 20 stores in the Netherlands, I would be very confident about selling multi-location inventory and delivering it in a nice way. She's brilliant. She can do it with the team. Outside of the Netherlands and marketplaces, no.
Okay.
No way.
Right. So let's imagine that scenario. How do you cope with that expansion?
But it's actually beautiful, because what I'm hearing here is that this customer has great command of what they know, which is their stores, their store network, and how to fulfill in their stores. Mm-hmm. And if they have that, and they then add on top of that a platform like Linnworks, we can make those kind of scary marketplaces, both domestically and overseas, way just like their stores, in terms of the execution that we would then allow them. And the one caveat that I would make there is that we work with a lot of cross-border marketplaces and a lot of cross-border partners. We're not suggesting that you suddenly open up warehouses abroad, but what we can do is get you connected to the right partners abroad who can help you with your fulfillment if you wanted to go abroad and if you wanted to go through marketplaces. But that's the beauty of Linnworks, is bringing that ecosystem to play so that you can expand that excellence that you've already achieved within that which you know.
Yeah. So we bought into Shopify, the whole ecosystem, like 7 years ago. we both come from very tech backgrounds, both ex-Google. So we're always looking for, how to utilize software and connectivity. And I think what I really liked all of this. One question I had was, can it help us actually get our products in terms of the listings onto the international marketplaces? Because we find there's a lot of fragmentation in terms of what they ask for, the product descriptions, the materials, the weights. And they all seem to be quite specific.
Yep.
And that's a connection that we haven't been able to find a way to date to really scale across all these marketplaces.
So a key part of our expansion capability is the listings module that we offer, which enables listings to those multiple marketplaces. Because I'm with you every step of the way. They're all different. They all want different things. And we found a way to help reduce that fragmentation and give you the opportunity to list to as many of them as we connect to.
Okay, great. Because we were currently trying to set it all up with Channable, with the idea of synchronizing our marketing and our marketplaces. But it's not going well.
I'm very sorry to anyone from Channable in the audience.
Hi, Channable.
Happy to connect afterwards.
Great.
Okay, that's really, really interesting. Okay, so let me talk about for a moment. Let's talk about automation. So you mentioned that what sort of guidance and advice, perhaps these two at the front here, can you give them because they're techies, they're ex-Google, right? In terms of if they want to automate even more as they scale and go to 20 more stores, what advice and guidance would you give them?
So I'm going to be very careful with my answer because I'm conscious of the fact that you come from a technology background. I believe technology goes so far, but you have to have the people and process that go with it. Mm-hmm. And I think there are some organizations who go over the top with technology. And interestingly, so I've been on board with Linnworks for 6 months. And I'm actually trying to reduce our tech stack because I feel like we've bought all this technology and there's a lot of crossover. And what I think is really important with automation is that you are focused on what your core outcome is, and then you very carefully define what technology can do to help you, but you ensure that you've got the appropriate people and process in there as well. Because if you go too far over one side, you unbalance yourself so that automation is working against you rather than for you.
Gotcha.
It's a balance. It is a bit of a balancing act.
So you mentioned you've been with Linnworks 6 months.
Yes.
But prior to that, you were at Manhattan. Did you?
I was. Yes.
Yeah, I remember you saying.
Yeah. So I've been in
experience.
I've been in the world of tech for retail for 35 years.
She must have started at 13.
Hopefully you can't see the wrinkles. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. It's a tenner you owe me. Okay, right. Now, you also mentioned control.
Yes.
Right? So, and I put a note here because, and this is great for you guys, I think, you talked about it in terms of hooking up with with best-in-class last mile or cross-border partners.
Yes.
How can you be specific about orchestrating different, shall we say, courier partners for different markets?
Yeah, so the shipping side of the equation is so important because that's how we get the physical goods into the hands of the customer. So making sure we're using the right couriers at the right time for the right price is imperative. And that's where all of these different shipping integrations we have gives our customers choice. So they can review the market to find the best courier. But the key for me is that connectivity, so that literally at the push of a button you can provide all of the information to them that they need in terms of the labels that need to be printed, the pickup places, the instructions, the size and dimensions of that packaging that they're taking, where it's going to, and then visibility of that in flight is so important, so that if something does go awry, you can contact your customer in advance rather than after the fact. And for me, as a consumer, that's crucial. Funnily enough, my loyalty to a retailer is more predicated on how they solve a problem than what they do in the first place. So I really advocate for that visibility so that you can mitigate against any problems.
Okay, brilliant. We haven't got too much time left. So any questions from the audience, by the way? Well,
they're very shy, John.
Any questions at the back?
Oh, look, you've got a couple of green ears over here on the right as well.
Okay. No questions. All right. I've got.
I'd be mortified if there weren't any green ears in the audience. Thank you very much for sitting in on our session today.
There as well in the back corner.
Yeah.
I can see you guys at
Yeah.
the back. Yeah. Right. So last question from me then. Obviously, you can support in terms of cost, customer service, greater visibility, sustainability.
Yeah, we
We've
didn't
not
talk
mentioned
much
that.
about that, did we?
So you've obviously, there's not a single primary driver why somebody would use your platform. So give me a comment about sustainability and how you can help with maybe visibility of carbon footprint, etc.
So not doing anything on visibility of carbon footprint, but where we come in is the decision making around how you're going to get goods from A to B and some of the more sustainable choices that you can make based on that. So we've done quite a bit of work. We did a little bit of work with one of our point of sale providers where we were really pushing for what we call the proximity plays side of things. Because if you think about the store network some retailers have, they are physically closer to customers. So if you are shipping goods from a local store to the customer rather than from a central warehouse, you are automatically reducing your carbon footprint in terms of the amount of mileage that you're covering to get that fulfillment done. So it's that kind of subtlety that we're talking about. We also talk to our customers quite a lot about packaging, not least of all because the smaller they can make the packaging, the more cost effective that's going to be. So not only does that help the environment, it also helps their bottom line.
Yeah.
So it's all about trying to think about all of these different levers.
Okay. Right. So we've got just over a minute left. So you're open for conversations. Where's your stand?
So I'm going to be here for another hour and a half or so, and we're on the Trailblazer Terrace, which you probably have no idea where that is, but it's behind this curtain. So you go out, turn left by the barista, and I'm tucked away in there on a tiny little booth.
Over there.
And you can come and say hi if you'd like to come and chat.
Well, thank you, Greens. You've been amazing, especially you two at the front. I warn you, she's got her trainers on. She's going to be straight after you right now, so you need to be quick. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure,
Thank you
Georgia.
very much.
I've really
Appreciate
enjoyed it. Ladies and gentlemen, Georgia.
Thank you very much.